Hi guys, it's Rob from PSIMET. Finally, we've got a video that I've been asked by a lot of people to put together over the years and have been hesitant to do. And it has to do with how we glue tubulars. Now, I could spend hours talking about how to glue tubulars. It's not really meant for that, so we're going to try to get to the basic facts and the most simplistic way of approaching it. This isn't the only way to glue tubulars. If you've known anything about tubular tires, is if you've got 20 people, there's 20 different ways of gluing them. And believe it or not, any way that glues the tire to the rim and keeps it on there is appropriate and is just fine. I'm beyond the years of trying to say there's only one way to do it. So we're going to cover the way that we do it. What we have found is that it works extremely well for us. I'm in the business of gluing tubulars. I can't afford to have any roll ever. Out of the thousands that we've glued, or at least 1,000 that we've glued, we may have had, I think it's 5 or 6 total in the history of the business actually roll. So, and in those instances, we've taken the time to do the post-mortem. So, this isn't to talk about the benefits of writing tubulars versus tubeless or anything else like that. This is if you know you're going to go with tubulars. I am finally putting this video out because I didn't for a long time, because it was kind of how I made a lot of money, was gluing tubulars. The thing is, there's been so much momentum in the direction of going away from tubulars. It's time, and a lot of the big reason why is because a lot of people feel that it's too difficult to actually glue them themselves. It's not. Anyone can do it as long as you do the right work, prep everything the right way, and use patience in doing it. You can very easily and appropriately glue your tubulars in the comfort of your own home. So some basics. As with all methods of applying anything, it's surface preparation. I use emery cloth to clean. I do sand the base of all rims, carbon, aluminum. If somebody tells me not to sand it, guess what? I'm going to sand it, because there's oils, there's all sorts of contaminants that can get on the surface just from handling it, building the wheel, transport, whatever. It really doesn't matter. So we use emery paper to clean it. After that, we wipe everything down with rubbing alcohol. I just use camp fuel or rubbing alcohol to wipe it down and clean it. Now, when it comes to tubular mastic or glue, I always use Vittoria Mastic 1. I highly recommend Vittoria Mastic 1. I'm not going to get in an argument with anybody over which one's best. There's data out there that actually shows that Mastic 1 has the highest bond strength out of any tubular glue that's on the market today. The only thing I don't have data for is the Corona tape that has come out in the last few years. I'll hope to get some data on that, but in essence, glue with Vittoria Mastic 1. Believe it or not, there's some issues with Mastic 1 in that it does have a shelf life. You want to have some fresh stock. Don't go into the one shop in town that just happens to have a box with 2 inches of dust on it sitting over in the corner. You want to get new or fresh tubes. As you can tell from the graphics, this one's a little bit older. This is what the new graphic looks like. Even between these two batches, which are within a few months of each other, there's some distinct differences in the glue. So the quality of the glue changes over time. The glue is temperature sensitive. It has a bit of a shelf life. It's very inconsistent in terms of the quality. Honestly, I've kind of felt that it has to do with what time of year it's put in the carton and shipped over to the US. So sometimes it's really cloudy, sometimes it's clean. Regardless, consistency of product, as long as you got fresh product, you should be good. Now, we use tubes as much as we can if we're only gluing a small group of tires, say 1 set. I would highly recommend using tubes only. If you're doing a large volume of tires, tub is fine, but don't expect to open the tub, use it to glue for a while, put the top on, and come back to it a year later and be able to use it. Once it's exposed to oxygen and some of the volume gets eaten up in here, a lot of the hexane that keeps everything in solution evaporates, and you end up with a really gummy glue that does not hold very well at all. So pretty much the rule of thumb is we open up a 10 if we can use it all at the same time, or if we're using it within the same week or so. Otherwise, we ditch it. Safety equipment, obviously protective clothing. I have plenty of shirts that have tons of mastic on them. And then one of the few things that almost no one ever mentions is use a respirator. These are 3M. You can get them pretty much anywhere. The 60921, it's like an organic vapor filter. Just put it on. Just use it. It's worth having. If you're going to glue quite a few, that's fine. I'm going to be not using it today because I have to talk a little bit, but I'm not going to be gluing a lot. I definitely use one because I glue a lot, so I don't want to. The vapors will. Some people pay for that, right? In essence, then, it comes down to rim prep, glue. I do use acid brushes to apply the glue, just like a normal hardware store acid brushes in the plumbing section. I get them bulk through like McMaster. I will typically cut down the bristles just to get rid of the strays, so I'm not throwing glue all over the side. But with tires, as soon as you get them, you should pre-stretch them. Most modern, like challenge tires, are supple enough that you don't really necessarily have to pre-stretch them. There aren't many tires that I actually have to pre-stretch anymore, but I highly recommend pre-stretching them. I use a lot of old rims that I have on hand to be able to throw them on and stretch tires. You simply put it on, pump it up to about the max pressure it's listed, and let it sit. Ideal would be to let it sit for a day, but sometimes you don't have a day. So stretch it when you can. If not, it's not really going to be a huge deal. With cotton base tape tires, they kind of look like this when they come out of the package. I have a different video where we talk about taking off the sealant here because we want full access to the base tape. But all cotton base taped tubular tires, I like to buff very lightly so that they have a nice fluffy consistency and they're nice and clean all around. They tend to absorb glue a lot better. On the rims, I'll throw one in real quick to show you. I will get a little bit of emery paper. I will check the rim. Everything's good. All the stickers are gone. And I will sand lightly. I don't know if you can see this back here, but I'm just bringing up a little bit of chalky residue. It's basically the light finish that's on here. And all I'm doing is just kind of trying to eliminate any possible grease or oils or any other contaminants that got on it from anybody's fingers during transport or while building the wheel. Once I've lightly done that, I'll take some rubbing alcohol and just clean off the residue. Once that evaporates, you should see kind of a milky consistency on at least a carbon wheel. Then we're going to apply one coat here. I've actually got an old brush here. I'm going to get a new one. I was gluing this morning and I don't see my scissors, so I'm going to do it without trimming it, but open the tin. Get a little bit of glue on there. See if you can come behind me here and see. And all we do is just a really quick light coat. We don't want a ton of glue on there. In some instances, if you're doing a very quick turn, like a lot of people will call it like a race mount, and that's when you're dealing with a bunch of racers, they need the wheel back like the next day. You want to run a really thin coat so that it cures as quickly as possible. I'll talk about curing time here in a little bit, but all we're doing is putting a light coat on here, making sure to cover all the area possible. Doing it quickly, you don't want to overwork the glue in any one particular area, as it will start to dry and it'll get all gummy. So quick in, quick out. Just getting a coat on there. A little too much glue, so I'll spread it around. Making sure you get out to the edges. If you use a brush, if you slide over the edge and out like that, you're not going to get it over the edge and onto the side of the wheel. It's an easy way to kind of keep it clean. In between moving things around, getting the next thing you're going to glue, I always cover tin. Don't keep solvent from evaporating. So we pull this out here. See if I can get it in the light. So you can see about how thick the coat is. It's very thin and it will dry very quickly. I like to let each layer cure for the tech would be 24 hours. So one day from now, I'm going to come back, put another coat on it. Then a day from then, I'm going to go and mount it by putting a third coat and then mounting it. Everybody has their own little sauce, their own little formula. But I can tell you that you can mount it a lot quicker. You can put another coat on there. What you really want it to be is dry to tacky to the touch, and then you're usually ready for another coat. The only thing that's going to change by reducing the cure time is you are going to decrease the overall bond strength. Now, for some riders who like to, once they have a tubular on, they like to be able to pull it off and change the tire to another tire. It allows them to change it quicker if they don't have as strong of a bond. The way that we tend to glue is we give all that cure time. The bond strength increases exponentially up to about 6 hours. Once you've gotten 6 hours on a cure, it's reached within 5 to 10% of its ultimate bond strength. So if the quicker you do coats, the lower the overall bond strength, but the gummier the whole gluing interface is going to be. So if you've ever grabbed a tire and kind of pulled against it and seen strings of glue and it's kind of gummy, but it's kind of held on there well, that is from very rapid coating time. So not a lot of cure time. Those that are like, if you go to press on it and it cracks off of there after a year or two and it's real dusty and it's hard and it snaps as it comes off, that was a very solid cure time. So we're talking anywhere from at least 6 hours up to 24 hours. Once you get to like 12 or 14 hours, the amount of cure, really the strength to cure time really dribbles off to diminishing returns. So we like to do, like I said, 1 per day when we can. If we have to, we'll do 2 in a day if we really need to. We find that it actually does give you a really good solid bond, and it gives you that nice play on the tire as well too. So that is the rim. I've got 3 rims here. These 2 were done about maybe 2 hours ago. And as we can see, it's already cured. It's already dry to the touch. This one, I can put another coat on if I really want to, if I want to push it. The longer I give it, the better off it's going to be. There is a law of diminishing returns on this, like I said before. You don't want it sitting out here for like 3-4 weeks, namely because you're going to get dust, dirt, debris, other things in there that are going to affect the actual full bond strength of the glue once it's done. So as long as you're keeping it clean, you can let it sit for a while. Don't let it sit too long. Get the other coats on there and get the tire on there. When it comes to the tire itself, I always start at the valve. I go one direction with it. And what you're looking to do is you're looking to soak the base tape. So that's in. If you check the color change between this area of the base tape and this area of the base tape, you're looking for that nice golden tan brown color. The darker it is, almost the better it is. The lighter it is, it tells you that the base tape hasn't necessarily absorbed as much of the glue. So if you take a couple pre-coated tires and you put them side by side and take a look at them, you're going to find very quickly, you can see which one absorbed more glue into the base tape than the other. Without this absorption, you're relying on the bond strength of the glue itself to hold the tire on. When you get this kind of absorption and you really get full cure on the glue, What ends up being the weak link is the bond strength between the base tape and the tire itself, which we all know is a very strong bond. So you're getting up to where you got the strongest bond you can get with the tire. So you continue like this all the way around the tire. As you can tell already, it's fairly dark, fairly good absorption. This is what the tape looks like when it's new and you start with it. I'm going to stop there for now just on this, but we'll talk about the rest of it. So I do one coat on the rim, one coat on the tire. I used to, as soon as I got back around, I would do a second coat on the tire because this was basically already dry and cured and glued enough. I still believe you can do that. What I have found though is that just for me, I like to give it a little bit of time to dry out. I still, because I'm usually gluing in batches, I will do one on the tire, one on the rim, and just keep going. Usually we have this whole rack filled up when we're gluing. So I just go from one to the next and the next. So they all get the same curing time, the tire and the rim. So one coat on both, let it cure. Second coat on both, let it cure. Then we go to mounting. And hopefully if I get the time here to mount these up, I'll record a little bit of that and add it on the back end of it. But in essence, what we do is you take the tire, we throw it back on a stretching rim because we have them. This is kind of the key for those of you that have a hard time aligning tires during the mounting sequence. Usually it's because the tire, you stretched it once and then you put all this glue on it when the base tape was at a relaxed state. What we do is we put it back on the stretching rim, pump it up to its max pressure, and it just kind of opens up that cotton weave on the base tape and cracks open and creates all these small gaps in the actual base glue that's on the base tape. We then throw the rim in there, put a little thicker coat for mounting, thicker than the two previous coats that we put on the rim. And then once that's ready, we pop the tire off of the stretching rim, slap it right onto the still wet glue on the wheel, mount everything around, pump it up to pressure, make sure it's all straight, roll it onto it, and then we use a very technical device here called a special tubular rolling device. It's not a broom, it's a special tubular rolling device. Put that on the ground, deflate the tire completely, and roll the broom into the crevice where the tire and rim meet with as much force as we can, probably 8-10 times, just to really ram it in there. Then we put some pressure back into the tire, low pressure, 20 to 50 pounds, depending on what the tire is. If it's a road tire, like 50. If it's a cross tire, we're like 30, 40 PSI. And then we let it sit there and we cure. We clean the sides. Any glue removal can be done with VM&P naphtha. You can get it at any hardware store. I obviously get this at Home Depot. But it will clean up any carbon, aluminum rim, whatever. It'll take all this off very quickly. Some people use acetone, just too volatile for me. It ends up just disappearing and evaporating before you can really work with it. The naphtha, which is in essence lighter fluid, it sticks around long enough that you can actually dissolve the glue again, put it into a little bit of a solution so you can wipe it up with a clean rag. Once you're done with that, that's pretty much it. Just be sure you clean the edges and the rim all the way around, and leave it for at least 24 hours after you've mounted it, and you should be good to go. So I'll come back and show some video of mounting it when we get to that point. Thanks for watching. All right, so I'm back. We've got a few coats on here. We've given them time to cure. This one's a shorter cure time than what I would normally do and what I prefer. But I wanted to give you guys an opportunity to see us mount some. So something else to note with our X rim, because it's a new rim, uses all the base tape, has full contact, and because of that, it's approximately 40 some odd percent more actual rim to tire contact. It uses more glue. So starting to glue some of these up in batches, I'm realizing exactly how much more glue it's actually taking. So something to note, be prepared for that. People always ask me how much glue does it take to glue on a set of tires, and I never really have a good answer because it just takes enough to glue it on right. It tends to vary depending on the tire and the rim combination. But, so for final mounting, what we've done is we've got the rim set to accept the final layer of glue. I've taken the tire, put it back on a stretching rim, and I've got it up to full pressure. And what that's doing, once again, is opening up that base tape and causing small gaps in there that will allow fresh glue to get in and further integrate itself and bond between the rim and the tire. So I've got that pumped up. I'm going to leave it at high pressure on the rim. Also gives me a chance to kind of straighten it out and make sure it's all the direction that it should be before I pull it off and mount it. Kind of helps with trying to keep it straight. I'll put one more coat here. On the rim. Like I said, a little wetter coat. With all coats, just moving fast. You don't need to overwork a particular area. Let the pressure out. You still want enough pressure in the tire itself that it keeps around shape and it's easy to pull off. This is still a bit too much pressure. So the tire, like a challenge, typically if you got too much pressure, it's going to want to roll out one direction or another. So this is kind of lining up mostly straight. It's easy to manipulate. Close the valve off to make sure no glue gets in it as you push it through the rim. Make sure your valve hole is clear. Then make sure you know which direction you're mounting your tire. These are baby limas, so these little points here point forward. Trick I learned a long time ago is I remove a shoe and use my toes to hold the rim in place as I mount. Come on. There we go. So valves through. I like to really seat it. Then just simply line it up. You want to pull on the tubular as you go. Keep constant pressure on it so it's not too narrow in one section, too fat in another. Line it up and stick it down. Quick look to make sure everything's about as lined up as it should. You should see a consistent tape line all the way across. Got some pressure in it. I put it back in real quick for the camera. Usually I just hold it, but I want to check to make sure tread's running fairly straight. Looks like it's twisted a bit. fairly good. Pop it out. I run it with weight in it. Usually this is where I'm running all over the shop and everybody laughs at me. And then I will let the air out of it. Sometimes I'll run it on a compressor hose if I need a little bit of give to it. This is a wider rim. So just run it right into that groove, pressing a lot of pressure into it. And I will put, with this rim, 30 to 40 PSI, 25 PSI around in there. Whatever I hit. Just to hold some shape. Still keep some pressure on there. So that is it. That is how you mount it. Now you just go in, clean up where you need to with some VNP naphtha, make it look pretty, and that's it. And then you're done. So that's how to mount tubulars. Thanks for watching, and as always, hit the subscribe button and share with your friends. Thanks.